welcome to the Insurance Buzz. This is your host, Michael Weaver, and I have my business partner and wife with me today, Courtney Weaver. How are you?
Whoop, whoop, let's go. I'm so good.
I feel like you're a co-host at this point in time.
I am.
All right.
I am. I just need to do the intro.
Hey, we can try that out sometime. So today, we're talking about your employees need a leader, not a friend. You ready for this?
Mm-hmm. I'm ready.
So, the number one thing that separates you from the friend category and puts you into the leader category is quotas. It's expectations. KPIs. Does your employee know how to win? Calls equal quotes equal sales. So, like the big three is something I talk about all the time. So what activities, what 3 things can they do every single day to hit their goals?
I would disagree.
You what?
I would disagree. I don't think that it is actually quotas that put you in the leader category. I would have to argue that point. And not that it's not important, but I think the thing that separates you from a friend into the leader category that makes you a true leader is accountability, is your ability to hold people accountable to said targets. Okay, here's a question. Have you ever had an employee that was your friend that you couldn't hold them accountable because they were your friend? Like could kind of hit the targets. They knew exactly how to win. They had the roadmap laid out in front of them. Oh, yeah, take a sip of water on that one.
I'm taking a big drink right now. What example do you want me to use?
You've done it. You've been in that spot where you couldn't hold somebody accountable. You couldn't make a tough call. You couldn't even write them up or fire them because you liked them and you wanted them to like you.
I don't want to say you're right, but
I'm right.
damn, there's so many instances now that I actually think about it. Okay. Yeah, this is crazy because I feel like I would justify, now that we're talking about this, I would justify to myself that I could coach them up because they would do the things I would ask them. Well, usually they would do the things I would ask them to do. Like one guy, for example, the kid's been with us for 2 months. And the backstory real fast, did everything in the interview process. Knew I shouldn't have hired him. Nice kid. Did exactly everything I said. Showed up when I said to show up. Emailed me when I told him to email me. Came in. Made calls when I told him to make calls. Shows up to my 30th birthday party.
That was fun.
2 months into it. Shows up to my 30th birthday party. It's not like we're like super close friends, but he's likable. I like the kid. He does what I say, but he is not good at sales. Not good at all. But he does the activity. You're right. He does the quota. But I was justifying to myself that, man, he's a good kid. He's trying.
Yeah.
He's giving it his all. He shows up. He's reliable. We can coach this out of him. I can.
And I think that you can to an extent. And I don't want to completely say that you can't, because I think that there are people, and can you train skill? Can you train will? I think that's a conversation for a different day. But I would say the defining characteristic between a true leader and somebody that's an amateur or just getting started is their ability to hold people accountable to what they say that they're going to do and what they expect them to do. So I do agree with you that you do have to have quotas and targets. People need to know how to win. But I think that there's more to that. And I think there's an easy way to hold people accountable. So I'll jump right into it. How I like to hold people accountable is a rule of 3. I'm a very simple person. I like to keep things very easy in my life. So it takes 3 weeks to form a habit. So I can observe somebody. I can say, okay, here's the target. Now this falls back on me as a leader too. What you're saying, I have to have the groundwork laid out of here's the target, here's how you win, we will reverse engineer it, I'll pay attention to activities, I'll pay attention to environment, I'll set you up for success. If we do all of these things and you don't hit X, it is my responsibility as a leader to, number one, upfront communicate the expectation. Okay. So I have to communicate, what do I want to happen at the end of this goal, or at the end of the month, or at the end of the week, or whatever that looks like. And then I also have to communicate what happens if said goal is not hit. And I think that that is something that we imply as leaders, is we think people know. We think that they understand. They get it. They understand. We've talked about this a lot. Did you reiterate? Did you overly communicate? If we hit this, this is what the outcome is. If we don't hit this, this is also the outcome. So again, takes 3 weeks to form a habit. So I usually give somebody 30 days. I give them a full month to observe, and I'm coaching along the way. Don't wait until you're so far in that you're like, oh gosh, I'm going to have to fire this person. If you see a habit or a behavior that needs corrected or coached up, go ahead and start coaching that. Now, if you continue to see it, this is where the rule of 3 comes in. So the first month, I have a conversation. Like, we're going to sit down, we're going to have a conversation. We're going to say, okay, what is an environment that I can put you in that can better set you up to succeed? Talk to me about what's going on. Because it may not be something that's happening at work. It may be something that's happening at home. Again, I am not your friend. I'm here to lead you. And my responsibility is to have all information that I can to make sure that your environment here sets you up to win. So that's the first thing, is really establishing that first 30 days. Note the behavior. If there's anything that needs to change, move forward, coach. Observe second month. If nothing's still happening, again, you're coaching along the way. Month 2 is where we start to have a more formal conversation, and there's a write-up. It's noted in their file. We need to have conversations about, is this a good fit? Is this a good fit? Because if we get to month 3 for me is termination. So month 1 is a conversation. Month 2 is a write-up. Month 3 is termination. If I have gotten 90 days in and I have coached, I have trained, I've clearly gone over expectations, set up an environment for them to thrive, and they are not thriving, they are not in the right environment, meaning they may not be a fit in my office, or they may not be a fit in that role.
Yeah.
Have you ever hired somebody that took the job and then they got into it and they said, you know what I actually really want to do is open my own pottery studio and make clay pots and sell them.
Be a barber.
Yes. Yes.
And now he is a barber today.
He is a barber. Yes.
And he really struggled. He's another one that I couldn't. I really had.
Because he was a great guy.
Yes. Like, damn.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it went back to me. This is crazy. Because quotas, it's not crazy. It makes total sense. So I appreciate you bringing this to my attention. All right. So
it's my job.
But so I think, and maybe I'm the only one out there. I don't know if I'm the only one out there, but people do what I want them to do. And it was like I was justifying it to myself that I didn't want to be bad cop after I'd poured into them over and over and over and over. Because again, I was small business. They're reliable. They're likable. We're building a great team culture. Mm-hmm. They're part of the family. Like, they're wearing the jersey, bleeding the blood.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, they weren't hitting their quotas, which is, it's funny now that I say it. And I didn't have the skill set then to understand what I was actually saying to my team. And that was, it's okay if you don't hit your quotas. Mm-hmm. You can do your quotas, but if you fall short on the production, which at the end of the day is the overall quota we are going for, when you actually figure out what matters at the end of the day, production matters at the end of the day.
Yep.
And so I was actually probably confusing my team by saying, you can hit your quotas, but you know what? If you fall short at the end of the month, it's okay. Try again next month.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because then it's, well, if dad says it's okay sometimes and not all, like, when do I play by the rules?
Because I wanted them to like me.
Right.
I was sending them conflicting messages, honestly. Like,
yeah. Because you're in a sales organization. So if somebody is consistently not hitting production, that affects their paycheck too. So you're saying, I'm okay with you also underperforming and you also not hitting these targets for the goals that you have in your personal life. And if you're a true leader, you say, okay, this is what you said. This is your intention. This is how much money you wanted to make. This is what you wanted out of this opportunity. You're not hitting the target. You're not living up to what you said you wanted to do. This is not what I created for you. This is what you said you wanted to do. Again, that's communication on the front end. I like to have a clear conversation of what somebody wants out of the opportunity, because then when they don't hit their targets and they don't hit their goals, it's like, hey, I just gave you the framework for it.
Well, and I know you're hitting on a really great point right now, because the rule of 3 is actually really magical. So, because that means you're doing your job as a leader, and also as like that friend, even though you're not real friends in an office, and you may be friends in office, and that's fine. But a true leader sets. You can't be a leader and be okay with people failing, like in making excuses that it's okay. Like you have to, and I think that was the one thing that I always, still to this day, sometimes struggle with. It's like, come on, I want it for, like, come on, just do it. Like, you got this. But I love how you're overly communicating throughout the process, so that you aren't the bad guy at the end of the day. Like, you are trying everything you can. Like, month 1, what's going on? How can I help you? Where are you falling short? This is what I'm noticing. Here's the struggles. How can we make sure that you don't do this the following month? Then the second month comes around and they do it again. Mm-hmm. And now you're actually doing a write-up, so they know it's serious. Mm-hmm. They're like, oh shit, like my job's on the line. Yeah. So that's when you define, that's when you define reality. That's when you draw the line in the sand. That's like, hey, I like you. I love you. You're great. You're just not doing a great job. Mm-hmm. And then month 3, that 90-day rule, it's, sorry, this just isn't for you.
I think there's 2 things to this. Number 1, you are the bad guy. Yeah. And you have to be okay with being the bad guy, because there's been a lot of times that my favorite people on the planet called me on my shit. And when they did that, it took me to another level. It forced me to say, you know what? You're right. I actually am not living up to what I said I was going to do, or I'm not keeping integrity with myself, or actually this job sucks and I would rather go do something else. This is my sign to go do it. So some of the best people that you think are the villains in your mind are the ones that just hold you accountable to what you say you're going to do. And I think so many times as a business owner, you don't want to be the bad guy. You want everyone to like you. That's just natural human behavior. I want people to like me. I want to be fun and cool and do the cool things and reward them. And there's a time and a place for that. But some of the best coaches and leaders and mentors, and I think that's the difference between being a friend. What you really are is a mentor and a leader. Like some of the best ones called me on it.
Yeah, I would even go a step further as your coach. Yeah. Like, even some mentors will let you get away with some shit that you probably shouldn't get away with, because they're like, oh man, you're basically like my best friend, or you're like my cousin, or you're my little brother. Whereas a coach calls you on your shit because you're paying the coach for a job. Like, okay.
I want to give you an example. So for me,
you're right though. No, sorry, I'm interrupting. Go ahead.
No. I know I'm right. I appreciate you saying that live and on air. For me, I will try to convince somebody, like I will make myself more likable if I know that I am underperforming, so they don't hold me to higher standards. Like if there was a time where I played softball and I was pretty good at it, but I didn't really like it. But I wanted to keep my position. So what I did was I made friends with the coaches, because I'm like, I really like my position. I like getting out of school early. This is kind of fun. Don't really like the game of softball. I'm okay at it. I'm not giving full effort. I'm giving half-ass for sure, not full ass. But I made friends with the coaches, because then it was harder for them to cut me because they liked me. And it's the same rules apply in business. Like we're in the same scenario. You can look at it. It happens in little league teams. It happens in art class. It happens everywhere in business. Like, It's just how we do it. We want people to like us. And if we're not getting what we want. We're going to
look,
figure out how to do it.
You may have been a little schmoozer to your coaches, but I think you're selling yourself short. You're the same girl that grabbed a stick and had to hit a hickory nut before you could even play softball. So
yeah, that's true.
You're pretty damn good. All right, so but you're right. Yeah, thank you. This is because realistically, as a leader, I'm letting my so-called friend or coworker down by not holding them accountable. Because if I'm not holding them accountable, then they're not winning. If they're not winning, they're not feeling productive.
Yep.
And if they're not feeling productive, eventually they're not going to like what they do.
Yeah.
Like that. And I know how every story leads. Like you're 100% correct. You're hearing it on the Insurance Buzz live. Every story ends up in the same conclusion of me eventually having to have the conversation of this just isn't working out.
Sorry, man. It's not me. It's you.
Every single one. It's
like a bad
every
breakup.
single one.
Yeah. So here's an easy thing that you can do on the front end to set yourself up before you even get into this process, before you even hire somebody. Here's a question that I like to ask. And I've talked about this before, but I'm going to reiterate this. What are your non-negotiables? So I want you as an employer, as a team member, as a producer, as a professional, write down what are your non-negotiables. What would make you quit a job? Okay, so write those down. And then if you were the leader in your office, what would make you fire somebody? What are the characteristics that would make you fire somebody? So when you look at, okay, what would make you quit or leave and what would make you fire somebody? On the front end, you can have that conversation before you even get in there and say, these are my non-negotiables. Again, we're setting expectation on the front end. It doesn't matter. Let's say that they're already hired. Do it with everyone in your office right now. They're already hired. What are your non-negotiables? What would make you quit this job? And then you tell them, these are my non-negotiables. These would make me fire you. So then there's a clear path of, there's no trying to guess. There's no saying like, well, maybe this kind of works sometimes. You can do this someday. These are the rules. Because then people need guardrails. I need a guardrail. I need to know, like, okay, this is my expectation. This is my target. This is what happens if I don't hit it. Then leave me alone. Don't micromanage me and let me do my thing and watch me run. And it's just all about overly communicating expectation.
So I think the issue I always had is I felt like I did overly communicate. I felt like I had the non-negotiables in place. But then when it came to the actual accountability, I was very weak in. Mm-hmm. So do you have any advice with that besides the rule of 1, 2, 3?
Hire somebody to do that if you can't do it.
But as a leader, it's kind of your job to do it.
Yeah, you can also delegate that out though. Like if you know that this is not wired in your blood and you have an office manager and you can communicate that, you can hire that out to say, this is your chief operating officer. This is your COO, your director of operations. She's your office manager. We're going to have conversations, but this is who you're going to report to.
And that person would be in charge of driving results.
That person is in charge of driving results. Yeah. That person's in charge of reviews. That person essentially takes that. Now, the other thing I would tell you is that you have to remember that what you are doing, even though it feels like shit when you have to fire somebody, it feels like, oh my God, I just pulled their paycheck. If you have had all of these conversations, they know it's coming.
Yep.
And you might be doing them the biggest gift and blessing and service by saying, hey, let's find you something. Because usually you're not like, you were never somebody who's like, grab your shit and go. I mean, like, this is not how it was. It was, what do you actually want to do? Let me help you formulate a plan. I'll make sure that you're taken care of in your transition. Let's really get you set up for success, because that may be the only time that they have permission to go, yeah, actually, what do I want to do? Because this is not it.
No, I would agree with you. I think that you are, as a leader, you're the leader for a reason. You have to make the tough calls.
Yeah.
Just like you're the hero, you can also be the villain. And so I think that's just what you sign up for. And that was something that I've had to learn along the way of multiple, but there was never one person really, when you think about it, like it was always a good, like when it was done, it was always like, oh.
Yeah,
because it's a good decision for you. It's a good decision for them. It's a good decision for the agency, for the culture.
People don't show up to work for you.
No.
They don't. There may be an aspect that it appeals to them or your culture is inviting, but they are showing up for their own goals, for their own mission, for something that they recognize in themselves in you. So I think sometimes we make it so much about ourselves as leaders, and it's not about you or me. It's about what's in the best interest of this person.
Yeah.
And I would also say, if you are not a leader and you're an insurance professional, you also have to overly communicate. If you're in a position that you're like, this sucks, this is not for me, please say it. Everyone's always worried about stepping on toes, or I don't want to hurt their feelings. And it's just call it like it is and say, hey, can you help me transition out to do something else? Because I love helping people in any network or connection that I have. If somebody says, yeah, I'd rather go do real estate, perfect. I have a ton of connections in real estate. Let's see how we can work together and make this happen. So
yeah, no, this was great. Thanks for calling me on my shit today, Courtney. Quotas are great, but quotas without great. Accountability.
Quotas are great.
Are trash garbage.
So what do you think if you had to give somebody like an easy activity expectation? What should somebody do every single day? What do they need to be doing?
From an accountability standpoint?
Yeah.
I think you have to have daily huddles every single day.
Okay.
So daily huddles, what that is, that's a team meeting every single day, because communication. Mm-hmm. And then I think that I think one of the best things we've ever done is implement one-on-one strategies with each person. So whether that's weekly, whether that's every other week, or whether that's monthly, you have to be meeting one-on-one with your team to make sure that you're communicating exactly what you're saying. So, hey, this is what I'm noticing. We're 1 week into the month. You're already behind on your goals. What are you going to do to get there so that by the time week 4 is there, you've had multiple conversations and you're like, hey, it just didn't cut it this month. This can't happen again. Where did you fall short? These are the things I noticed. Your activities may be lacked. Hey, I hear you missing some sales that you should be making. It sounds like you're selling based off of price. Let's tweak that conversation a little bit. So that's what I would say. I would say constant communication with the team so that the team knows exactly where everybody's at through those team meetings on a daily basis, and then weekly or every other week one-on-ones. Yeah.
And I think an easy activity, you talked about quotas in the beginning, 3 quotes a day.
3 quotes a day.
That's it. That's all you have to focus on. The more simple you can make it and the more you overly communicate it, the easier it is to follow.
And 3 legitimate quotes a day. Look, emailing out somebody a quote is not quotes. Like a quote is actually getting somebody on the phone, having a conversation, and asking for payment information. That is a quote.
Yeah.
You need 3 of those a day.
Yep. It's very basic.
Every single person in your office, look, and I know a lot of people are like, man, my goal's 5. How often are they actually hitting those 5?
Mm-hmm. Because then that's where we get into the expectation versus reality and what we need to hold people accountable to.
Yep.
Yeah, yes.
Like goals are cool, but if they're never hitting the quotas,
that's so defeating.
It's defeating. You're setting them up to lose every single day. And then you got to hold them accountable to it. Like, hey, you're not getting this done. Why aren't you getting this done? Like, so, but you're right. Team meeting, daily huddles every single day.
Yep.
One-on-ones, and then just quote 3. Quote 3 people. Get 3 people on the phone, a minimum every single day. Have a value-based, educational conversation, and ask for the payment information.
Yes. So good.
Not a presentation unless you're asking for the close, man. Like,
that's true.
Emailing. Come on. Come on.
Does it count? It's like emailing me to go on a date.
Texting someone a price. Trash.
Seriously. Could you imagine if it was a first date and you're like, hi, would you like to meet here? And you sent via email.
Yo,
what?
They may do that today.
What? No! I would never survive. Oh my God. This has been so much fun. I love it.
All right. If y'all like the episode today, make sure you go in, you give us a 5-star review. Tell some people about your experience with the insurance buzz. Make sure you subscribe. We're always trying to bring really great content. We hope we're delivering. Courtney, thank you so much for your time today.
Oh, thank you.
I hope you all liked today because you're about to get a lot more of today. So, as always, my friends, time is the most valuable and important asset that we all have. I appreciate you. Go out and make it great.